Okay, well, you're from Sacramento.
Born there.
Yeah, let's go back.
Born in Sacramento. Parents got divorced when I was 5 or 6, and then went down to Walnut Creek, Concord area, which is the Bay Area, East Bay, there down there. Mom remarried, and then kind of went to high school there, and kind of went to high school. That's part of the story, right? Barely graduated, that kind of thing. Then went to DVC, which is Diablo Valley College, and then kind of got in the wrong crowd and took a year off. Went up to Reno, Nevada. My dad lives up there, and I was working 60 hours a week, throwing paint for Sherwin-Williams in a warehouse. This is after my first year of college with DVC, and I dropped all my classes before playoffs started, and the coach wasn't very happy about that. But I only had 6 innings all year, my first year out of high school.
Really?
I couldn't throw strikes, right?
Do you have the yips?
I just had the young, dumb, just trying to get in mischief and, just get in trouble, and fortunately I stayed out of the eyes of the law and everything like that. And then took some time off. Had to get out of the area. I was in the wrong group.
Get away from it.
Right. So I ended up going up to live with my dad up in Reno, Nevada. And I was working at Sherwin-Williams throwing paint, on pallets and stuff like that. And then they wanted me full-time during the winter because they lay off a lot of people during the winter because nobody paints, right? And so they wanted me full-time, and I was like, well, I kind of want to go back to school. At this time I was not playing any kind of ball whatsoever. It's been 6 to 8 months, somewhere around there. And so then I got picked up over at Scolari's, which is like an Albertsons.
Oh, yeah. Good school, NAIA.
No, Scolari's is like a supermarket.
Oh,
yeah. This is another job. This is another job opportunity, and I started throwing food on pallets for a while, and I was working again 60 hours a week, had every Tuesday off, and that was it, and I was working swing shift 3 to 2 in the morning, whatever it was. I was getting a lot of time.
Were you good? Like coming out of high school, were you
I was drafted. I was drafted in the 48th round by the Dodgers.
Drafted.
Yeah, drafted follow. They followed me right down the tubes, And then and then at that time, obviously, it was dial-up internet. So really, there's not, you don't put anything online at this time, right? It was just more, getting online, looking up, it's like a telephone book, more or less. So my dad's getting the newspaper every day, and he still reads the newspaper. Even today, he still reads the newspaper. But he was reading the newspaper, and he saw that there was tryouts for a club that was called Reno Diamonds. It was kind of like it was a wood bat league.
It was like a summer league.
College summer league. It was college, but Bobby Aralt was there. There was some big leaguers that were trying to get back in. It was independent ball.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a lot of the guys were trying to get back in either the minors or back up to the big leagues. And Bobby Aralt was one of those guys, and Tommy Mitchell, Kevin Mitchell's brother, was on the team, and such. He
was he was on the Ducks, wasn't he?
Oh, was he?
I think so. Maybe it was Mitchell.
Yeah.
But I tried that path. I quit, and then I tried to come back.
Right.
Long Island Ducks, but I think Mitchell played for them.
Yeah, but so I was kind of I was only 19 at the time, so kind of still very young, and so there's tryouts. It was 9 or 10 in the morning. So my dad's like, hey, you should go try out for this team, and I was like, because I had not even thought about playing ball ever again. I was thinking it was over. Drafted, follow, end of story.
But then your first year, you just had trouble throwing. Were you overthinking?
I just didn't care. And none of it. I didn't care about anything. I cared about girls. I cared, partying, having a good time, and I was, like I said, in the wrong crowd of drugs and, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, he ended up seeing this tryout. So I went there, and Shake Cooper was the manager, and I threw like 3 or 4 pitches, and he goes, "What's your story?" I was like, "I'm 19," and I told him about the previous year, and he asked me, "Do you want to go back to college?" And I said, "Sure." He's like, "Sweet, I don't have to pay you." And I was like, "Okay," and then he said, I said, "I'm working, obviously the evening games," and I said, I'm working, swing shift 3 to 12. I get every Tuesday off," and he goes, "That works out perfect. Every home game's a Tuesday home game."
Oh, nice.
And I was like, well, what about practices and stuff? He's like, look, you don't have to worry about any of that. You just show up every Tuesday and you'll start. I was like, oh, okay. I put up really good numbers there, sub 2.5, and, finished pretty good there. And then he asked me if I could get a weekend off to go play a round robin with like the Sacramento Seals and, a bunch of independent ball teams out there. And I said, sure. And then when I went out there, I ended up hitting like 92, 93 from the left side. Yeah. And that's way harder than I ever threw in my whole career, right? But so there was a couple of junior colleges out there, and one of them was San Francisco City College. And the coach was Rob Wilson. And he, and at this time I'm a sophomore in baseball, but still a freshman in academics.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things I had to, accomplish in one semester to come back. And he's like, I can help you out with that. So he ended up putting me in like 40 units in one semester.
Whoa, do you have tutors?
No.
40 units?
Yeah, I didn't have to go to school.
Oh.
Yeah, it was one of those deals. One thing that you can't get away with these days, right? But yeah, so he put me in 40 units. And I'm talking like racquetball, intermediate racquetball, advanced racquetball, same thing in swimming, same thing in, everything they had, basketball, everything, right? So it only had to have 12 transferable units. So of course I had a language, I had government, in my regular classes that I had to go to, and astrology, night classes and stuff like that. Right. Right. And then one of the other things was like, hey, I need a job and a place to live because my parents had cut me off because I got in trouble. My dad helped me a little bit here and there, but it was very, very seldom. So he's like, I'll get you a job. So I ended up parking cars at, from midnight to 6 a.m. at downtown Marriott, and made a little bit of money there, and lived on my tip. Yeah, lived on my tip. This is my first semester. Yeah, this is the full year at CCSF at San Francisco City College. So, so I was waking up. I was up until 5 every morning and getting up and going to, going to class when I had to, and then playing baseball right after that, and and such. Yeah, it was a busy schedule, but it kept me out of trouble.
Yeah.
And then he got me to live with like 5 Hawaiians that were, happened to come over because they don't have a junior college team in Hawaii, and they came over and I roomed with them. That was the Howley, the Howley of the of the household.
You're getting a lot of crap.
Oh yeah, a lot of it. And then at that point, I started finding the strike zone and put up a really good year, and then I got drafted in the 10th round in '96, and then after that, went straight to Florida, knocked out my then girlfriend, and had 2 kids making $800 every month.
Oh yeah.
So I got
I don't know how we did that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Well, you had roommates.
Yeah,
you had a lot of roommates
two or
all the way
three.
through. Exactly. We had 4. Yeah, it was 5 of us in a 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
So, just trying to get by, but of course we're going to have some debt. Going through the minor leagues, and I did. But fortunately, I was able to, make that back, obviously, and come.
Left-handed pitching, obviously, it's like if you're you can hang on forever.
Right.
If you're throwing strikes, and they'll just keep you around, and hopefully you can pop
For
up
sure.
catching too.
9 lives, they call them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got in the minor leagues. How did that flow through?
So
late development. How long were you in the minor leagues?
In
Because
90
you're I got drafted in 90 out of high school 95 and then 98. So
Okay.
we're right
in the same, yeah. So I was in Port Charlotte, rookie league, my first half year,
The chain link league?
the Gulf Coast League, right? Yeah, the chain, exactly. But yeah, we were, 80% Dominican, Puerto Rican, whatever, and then
How did you do with that? That was a culture shock for me, man.
it was a culture shock. They're vibrant people, they let the culture be known, and very vocal, and and really fun to play with. They love the game, and that really kind of took me for a whip. Like, it's these people really, enjoy being in America and loving the game. So,
for sure.
and they get the same opportunity as the guys that have been drafted out of 4-year colleges and got millions of dollars to sign. So it was kind of fun to see, and I made a lot of friends through that. Not that I keep in contact with them these days, but
Facebook opened up, like, a lot of the Dominican and Venezuelan guys and stuff, like, through Facebook was cool when that kind of got popular. Just to see how it's like some of these guys I've played with are now, like, in the minor league managing at, like, pretty high levels. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But that was interesting, and it's funny the dynamic in the locker room, right?
For sure.
It's like they're over here dancing.
Yep.
And yelling and loud, right? And it's like hot, and we're just like,
how are they doing this?
They're yelling and screaming. It's just that culture thing. And then they pop, and then you had to take turns. I don't know how it was in the big leagues, but whoever was pitching got control of
the music.
Of the music.
Yeah,
Is
right.
that the same?
I don't know. When I was coming up, yes, for sure. I don't know how it is these days. I mean, these days you see ping pong tables in every single room. But back in my day, if you had a ping pong table, somebody would get hurt and blame it on the ping pong table, so they'd get them all out. So it was. It was. I think it's a lot different now these days than it is than it was when I was coming up.
Well, the minor leagues, man, like. I still text my buddies and laugh. Like, if I see a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like, I just want to throw it up.
Right. I still crush those all the time.
I laugh, and I'll just send pictures to my buddies. And so it's like peanut butter and jelly was in low A ball.
Yeah.
And then it's like we graduated to cold cut meats, right?
Totally.
And then some fruit.
Yeah.
And higher A.
Yeah.
And it was
and double A, triple A, it's pretty much all the same.
Really?
It was never. Yeah, it was. Well, we always had peanut butter and jelly. So, like, if you get your $7 a day for meal money or whatever it is, and you're like, what am I going to do with this? Well, I think it was like 14, but you had to give $7 of it a day to the clubby. Exactly. So you had $7 to go out and get a foot long, $5 foot long, right?
We ate Waffle House was big for us after games, like in the South Atlantic.
So that's a lot different now these days too. Now it's all it's all diet oriented and making sure that they're eating the best things possible in the minor leagues. Yeah, now it is.
Well, that's good because we were fed prison food.
Exactly. We for mac and cheese and any instant mashed potatoes or whatever they could find, or KFC would be there or something like that.
Fried chicken night they'd have like once every couple weeks.
Right. Yeah. Or it would be the best part would be when a big leaguer was coming down and they were doing their rehab assignments. No, they'd get steaks and get Outback Steakhouse for a night. You're like,
yeah. We weren't very healthy back then. If you look at at least my diet, I don't know how I got through it, but I felt like I was emaciated at the end of the year. So
sure.
I don't know how much you've been out for 13 years?
Sounds about right. 12.
12?
Yeah, well, that's my last year was 12.
So this
12,
conversation can go in a million different directions. It's going to be interesting either way. So I was talking to somebody, because I don't watch a lot of sports at all, but sometimes I'll watch baseball, and I'm like, these pitchers now, like mid-90s is just like normal. Like it was 88 to 92 probably when you were playing, right?
Yeah, it just didn't matter how hard you threw back then, as long as you got outs in the minor leagues. If you got outs in the minors, you were going to get an opportunity, to on the next level, regardless how hard you threw. We had Brian Schaus. He's topped out at 82, but he threw a little sidearm, and he got guys out.
Well, look at Jamie Moyer. He was 45 in the big leagues.
Yeah, throwing 80. Yeah, 82. Right. I used to watch him pitch all the time to figure out how I'm going to get guys out in the very next game, and stuff like that. So, and that's come a long way as well. Just the videography and all that kind of stuff, and figuring out how to get a game plan together.
It just seems like it's more technical. I'm sure
it's all numbers.
All of the workouts are probably just like totally focused on performance, and they have it to a science now. That's probably helping with velocity.
100%.
But is it also that the people want to see people throwing hard? Maybe they get a chance over somebody else.
Well, I think today's game is like for pitchers, I think they're just more expendable. I think they can fix them, and I think before I came up, 95, 96, whatever, I feel like before that they weren't coming back as fast, and they weren't coming back throwing harder for sure. But now, you get, guys have had 2 or 3 Tommy Johns, and they're still coming back throwing 95, 96, or even harder. So what I mean by expendable is like, hey, we'll just go out there, find the hardest throwers. If they get hurt, we fix them in a year, and we find somebody else that's throwing 95 until then. You know what I mean? If they stick around for a long time, we can pay them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on right now. I feel like if you're not throwing 95, well, we'll find somebody who can. That's that war, that wins against replacements. That's what kind of threw me out of the game, because
what was your velocity?
What
was your thing? Like,
I was a fastball cutter guy, I mean,
like a
cut fastball.
Slider.
Yeah, it would look like a fastball to righties.
Mid 80s.
Yeah, in that area, and I had a decent curveball, and my changeup I finally found it when I was 28. 8 years later, I finally found out.
That's the pitch that takes a while.
It does. It took me a long time. That's one of the things I know we're going to be talking about with the kids is trying to develop a changeup at an early age because it's good on the arm. But these days, they're talking about split fingers are actually better on the arm for a changeup than a change. Yeah, because you're trying to turn it over a changeup.
Yeah, it's just kind of
right. You're just trying to manipulate the ball, and you're just throwing a fastball. So
I hated catching hard throwing splitties.
Oh yeah, you might as well start on your knees, right?
Because
you're going to block it.
And you're just like, okay, I have 100. I mean, I love blocking, but like not because some of these guys throw 90 with a splitty.
Right.
And
exactly.
I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah. Exactly. I didn't get many swings and misses in the dirt. So
the best pitcher I ever caught, Jeff Haverlow. He actually was in AAA, but he was a first rounder on the UW Washington with me. Best pitcher I ever caught. 86 to 88 with a cutter. Mm-hmm. He could throw 92, but he sat and he could throw that cutter anywhere at any time in any count.
That's exactly how it was.
And I go, like, there's just if you can do that, especially on lefties, it would just cut right under their back.
Yep, that's what I did with righties. That was my.
So you'd come right in.
Yeah, I'd come right in, start right over the middle of the plate, and I could see their eyes getting huge, and when their swing gets long, and
And then with 2 strikes up in the count, you can throw it even lower.
Yeah,
they're gonna chase it.
Yeah, I was able to, later on, I was able to use that cutter, to be either vertical, I can go vertical, or I can make it drop more, or I can make it, cut in. Yeah, just by a little adjustment, or maybe even drop my arm just a tad, and I just. Fed on a lot of the guys that try to hit home runs. Those guys that try to hit home runs, those kind of the guys I usually did good on. Righties, not lefties. Lefties ate me up.
Why is that, you think?
I just don't think I had anything coming into them.
Okay, so you didn't have a sink.
Yeah, I didn't have sink. I had 4-seam fastball, which was straight, and everything going away. What
was your arm angle?
I was 3/4.
3/4.
Yeah, I was 3/4.
That's pretty gnarly on lefties.
It is when you throw hard.
Yeah.
But when you throw soft, they don't care if they get hit. You know what I mean? If you're throwing 95, they care if they get hit. And they're a little more,
So they were
a little more on their heels.
They were comfortable in the box.
And they would look out over,
Yeah.
And like I said.
And if you pitched in here, they just let it roll.
Well, they'd turn on it, because it's 85.
Okay. So your fastball was
85, 86. Yeah,
my
cutter.
Your cutter was 83.
I could get it up to the 88, 90 range, but that was considered hitting speed, and I'd get raked, when I was throwing 88, 90, and then, unless I up by design, right?
Yeah.
Down as a foundation, up by design.
Yeah.
And I could throw that, 88 up there after slowing them down so many times and they try to catch up to it. And that's where I got a lot of the swing and misses. Exactly.
The lefties, I had the hardest time with softer throwing people that threw a lot of strikes.
Yeah.
With a couple different pitches because they'd sit there and thumb it and then they'd throw, like you said, they'd throw their 86. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That felt like it was 90, 92.
Yep. Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
just slowing down and speed them up, right?
So it's all relative, and I think that's a good point to make across because a lot of these kids, like my friends' kids, are like velo this, velo that. And I'm like, but they're getting the yips. They're getting like mental problems from trying to throw too hard. They can't throw strikes, and then they're out. And then they have to rebuild.
Right.
So it's like, I don't even know if that's a thing in the big leagues anymore, is it?
I wouldn't even. I'm with you. I don't really watch baseball anymore at all. I'm a football. I love watching NFL. Right. That's the only thing. That's really the only sport I watch. And that's just because of fantasy football. Right. When you're in 4 leagues, you watch every single game, every single play. But like in baseball, everybody that I play with is either managing, or they're GMs or something like that. So I no longer really care. that I just like I can't keep up with how many kids that come in and out of the game so
Yeah.
fast.
It's and that's
Like I said,
what-
expendable. you
Yeah,
know?
so that leads me into, and I want people to understand that making it to the big leagues is one thing. Sticking in the big leagues is a whole other thing. Because I know
sure.
a lot of people that got, they're going to push certain people up,
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
and they just, a lot of those people just don't stick, and they'll have a really good year, and they're like, where'd they go?
Right.
They got hurt, and then it might have been it.
Yep.
But what do you think the biggest difference is between a couple things, minor league to big league, and then the people that stick? What was
Yeah.
your note?
I believe what helped me what helped me with mine was, I was always trying to be a different pitcher when I got up to the big leagues. I was always trying to please everybody else, and I was always in my mind about, well, Johnny Oates hates walks, so that means I have to lay everything over, make sure, we put the ball in play.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that in the big leagues. You might be able to get away with that in the minor leagues, and some of the minor league levels, but when you put it over, over the plate, they don't miss.
They don't miss.
Right.
Yeah.
So my first couple of years, I was effectively wild, they call it, right? So I could get in there, maybe get 5 innings in, but I'd be throwing 120 pitches. They don't do that these days, because I'd be walking 5, striking out 7. That would be the typical line, for me, constantly, and a lot of, I think once I got to my 3rd or 4th year of going up and down, up and down, up and down.
Oh, you were going AAA back and up.
Yeah, I went up 11 times one year.
Did you get designated for assignment through that too?
So I did in 2001. I got when John Hart came over, and that's when we signed A-Rod when I was with Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in with a whole new regime, and they put me on. I got Rule 5'd by the Blue Jays.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they kept me up. I think I was there for maybe 60 days or something like that. And then they
Don't have to keep you in the big leagues?
Yeah,
for the
Rule
whole year?
5. Yeah, they have to put me in the big leagues. Once I get designated and I get picked up by any team, they have to put you in the big leagues right away. Mm-hmm. So that's what happened. And they let me start for a while, and then they wanted me to go down and drop down and try to be a situational lefty, and I was 24 at the time, and I was like, oh, that's just too young. I didn't say too young to myself, but I was like, I don't want to be a reliever.
Mm-hmm.
For one, it ruins my golf game because I got to be ready every single day,
exactly.
right? And I don't bounce back as fast as a lot of guys, right? I mean, I can, I think. It took me 3 or 4 days to come back to be 100% health, to be able to throw another 100 pitches.
You're doing your thing because the pitchers, they have to
going out at night.
Bullpens before,
Right.
So
going out at night, stuff like that. You got 4 days off.
The pitchers, I was a catcher, so I was around the pitchers all the time.
Yeah.
And they had the most fun.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's just like, what are you doing tonight? Because the bullpen was just like its own little world in the bullpen.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, where'd you go last night? Where are you going tonight? And the position players, I mean, not as much because they're playing every day in this.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
But it cracked me up.
Well, and that's the one thing. I would never go out 2 days before I pitched. Right. I go out the night I pitch. Right. And then the next day maybe, and the next day maybe. But then I always give myself 2 days of detox, right?
Yep.
And be like, because there's 24 other guys on my team that are relying on me to go out there and throw strikes. I don't want to be hungover or sweating alcohol and smell and having a bad day. And these guys are out there busting their butts for me because I'm out there.
It's a big deal.
It is. At
that level,
right? I started that in the minor leagues. Just because I wanted the guys to play good behind me and want them to know that I'm taking it serious. I might go out and mess around 3 days straight, but but when it came to having to perform, I wanted to make sure that I was I was ready to roll and not coming in smelling like booze.
I just laugh, man. Bob File, you played with him?
Yep.
So I still keep in touch with Bob.
Yeah.
He was dirty.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, you played with him.
No, I didn't play with him. I played like when he played. Yes.
Yeah, he was like a third baseman in college.
Yeah.
And then he had the nastiest stuff. Like 95, just sink so hard.
I remember that.
If you watch him pitch, it just like. Whoop. And then
Yeah.
he had a super nasty slider too.
Yeah, a lot of things that you say right now is a lot of that's a blur. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know the name Bob File, and I remember he threw hard and had nasty sinkers. But because, like we're talking about, going out and everything just went so fast. You know that those 17 years of of pro ball, it's hard to like put them all together. Where was I? Was I in New York or LA?
Yeah.
When that happened? It's just stuff like that. And was I in the minor league? Was that
All
the
these
minor?
different people.
Yeah.
So just people, I'm just name throwing out there just to see if you have anybody in common. Aaron Mayette was funny.
Yeah.
I figured you played with him in Texas. Did you play with Chris Magruder?
Yeah, I know
He's one of my good
Gruz.
friends.
Love Grud. He was one of my favorites. He worked super hard. He was one of the hardest working players that I played with.
Yeah. So
In
Magruder,
Milwaukee, I believe.
yeah,
I
and
played with
this
him.
is something we can lead into because I think that the intangible part of baseball players is like probably more important almost than physical, because the physical in the minor leagues, there's a lot of people that are super talented, but then there's these like Magruder. So we played together the same year at UW, and we still keep in touch and hang out groups all the time. But he had something that I'd never seen before. Like, I think his tools, if you rate them, they're probably close to average.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? And some maybe even below. But the guy was the best baseball player I've ever played with, all around.
Yeah.
I mean, he got on base 26 times in a row one time. Like, if the ball was that far outside of the zone, he wasn't swinging, right?
Yeah.
And he never struck out, and he just was a guy.
He didn't strike out. I remember that, and he played the outfield. He was a good outfielder. You know, he was good. I don't know if he played outfield when he was in college, but did he?
Yep.
And he had a cannon. He had some good tools.
Yeah.
But the way he played the game right. He was always the hardest working. Nobody outworked him ever, and that's what made him separate from everybody else. That you say average tools, but it separated him because of the way he took the game so seriously and was. And like he would put 10 hours. If everybody's putting 10 hours in, he'd put 12 hours in. He'd always be the first one in the ballpark, last one to leave. That's what I remember about him. And he's a lot like Brady Clark too. And Brady Clark is, he's from around this area as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was actually playing with Gruder at the same time in center field for Milwaukee, I believe. And I believe Gruder was right field.
Yeah. No, it was.
Or no, I think it was Jenkins right field.
Oh yeah, Jenkins. Yeah. He was right before us at USC.
Yep.
But no, we probably have a lot of the same people. And it's like the best pitcher I caught was my pitcher at UW, and then Gruder. I think all around baseball player just had these intangibles that it's just I think that's what makes the difference between big leaguers. It's like talent's going to bring you so far, but if you can't handle the failure and be consistent, especially doing the work that got you to the big leagues. Do you think you ever see people start to slow down on that work?
I'm guilty of it. I know Greg Maddux is guilty of it. But did it affect us? Not at that time, I don't believe. Because I feel like at that time when I started slowing down, I was established. I was making. I already had made it. I made my contract. And shame on me for that. I do look back at that, and I wish that sometimes I would have worked harder. And played a little bit longer.
Yeah, but do you think it was like honestly? Do you think because there's some people that don't need they don't need to put as much work in, right?
Right.
Then there's some people that's what they have to do. Like Orlando Hudson was a guy that I played with that
love O-Dog. Oh, he was one of my favorites.
Like he works. That guy hustled every day. Could be 95 degrees.
He showed up every day.
He's just taking ground balls all day with Garth Orange. Remember him?
Don't know that one.
Blue Jays. He was the roving in.
I played with O-Dog in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome. Awesome character. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a talker. He's a talker, but like a super gamer. Just like you were saying. Yeah. Both sides of the plate. Doesn't strike out much. Second in the hole. He's usually like second in the lineup. Does his job, get the guys over, whatever he had to do. He was awesome.
Yeah. So that's my experience. Is that the people, that did that work and were just dialed in and wanted to be there every day. They're the
Yeah.
guys that continued to go up.
And staying healthy is huge.
Staying
Healthy is huge, you
a lot
know.
of
So,
luck.
oh yeah. Staying healthy was one of the things that helped me. You know, I didn't get hurt for 14 years. You know,
didn't?
Yeah, I didn't have any kind of surgery or anything. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say any surgery. I didn't have any baseball-related injuries. I had cancer one time, and I had low back issues, but I just didn't know how to keep my, I didn't know how to keep my back in shape. I didn't do the stuff that I was supposed to do.
Were they
stuff
in the
like
training
that.
room you were slacking? Maybe?
Oh, yes, exactly. Then once I found all that out, I lived on the training room table. They couldn't get rid of me on the training room table.
You're like, oh, I can do this and get healthy.
Yeah, I can stay healthy, but as long as if they kept an eye on me, they knew, hey, I'm feeling a little tight right here. Okay, we'll do these exercises, do these stretches, and then we'll work it out a little bit, with either, any kind of massaging or with deep tissue stuff.
Yeah, and there tended to be the same guys that were in the training room, at least like in my experience. Not always, but there's guys that get hurt more than others.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I never really got hurt.
Yeah.
But it's just their bodies are different.
Right.
And some of these people I feel bad because they get hurt and then they work their way back and then it's like, bam, they get hurt again. It's just like, what is that? It's like,
yeah, that takes the mental. Yeah, that really, it stresses you out mentally for sure. You know, and then to come off the injury, to have confidence to go back out there and not hurt yourself again too. It takes,
if you're like letting it roll.
Yeah, exactly. Are you hesitant or are you just like, here it is, see what happens, So that took me a little bit to get back, when I did have surgery, arm surgery.
What do you think made it you stick that long? That's a long time. Like was it 11 years?
I got 10 years exactly. 10 years in one day.
So making it to the big leagues, like you could go on a run and get in the big leagues and get a shot. And then there's like sticking because you got people coming up constantly.
So once, the Blue Jays, they wanted me to go down and be a left-handed reliever. I took an option out. I took a $380,000 pay cut to go play minor leagues for the Brewers. Doug Melvin was the GM at the time. He was also with me over at Arizona or in Texas. So he gave me the opportunity in Texas many times, obviously, to come up and fail. And every time I'd go back down, I'd go 7-8 innings and dominant, get back up and get
what do you think it was?
shillelagh'd. So this is funny. At my end of time in the Blue Jays, and this was before they tried to send me down. And Doc came up to me, Holiday. He comes up to me and goes, "You ever talk to a sports psychologist?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, I got a good one for you," and he helped me. And his name's Harvey Dorfman. And I was like, he goes, "Read this book." He gave me The Mental Game of Baseball. And I wasn't a big reader at the time, honestly. Obviously, I told you about the history of school, right? I wasn't a big school guy. But anyway, he gave me the game, The Mental Game of Baseball. And I was like, all right, read a couple pages of it. Here's his number. Give him a call. Talk to him on the phone. He can get you straight. And I was like, yeah, whatever, And then like 3 days later, I got sent, I cleared waivers. So they're going to send me down. And all of a sudden I get a phone call. And this phone call was Harvey Dorfman. He calls me up and just talks to me for about, 35, 40 minutes and kind of sees where my headspace is. And like and one of the things he says, like, what's the worst, and this is what sticks to me all the time. One of the things he says, what's the worst thing that can happen to you in your life? You put baseball aside, everything, what's the worst thing that's going to happen in your life? At the time I had 2 kids and I was like, well, outlive my kids, right? Something that happened to my kids and my wife at the time and, something like that. And he goes, well, is that going to happen if you give up a grand slam? If you go to the minor leagues, you never play baseball again? Is that going to kill them? Is that the worst fear going to be, is that worst fear going to happen? And I was like, well, no. And he's like, so why are you bringing that out there with you? You know what I mean? It's like you got to stop caring about the stuff that you can't control. You can only control what's on that little dirt mound right there, and just control that, and don't worry about anything else that happens, right? And I was like, yeah, but this, and he goes, all right, well, you're telling me all these hypotheticals that really, none of it is relative to what you're supposed to be doing out there, to what you're doing, and you're talking about 5 different things. And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, you're setting yourself up for failure then. And another thing that stuck with me, because if you're trying to do 5 things, how many things are you actually going to do? And I said, well, I guess just 1. And he said, well, then you have
punting.
Yeah, well, you have 80% chance of failure.
Yeah.
You know, because those
Good
other
math.
things that, those other things that,
Yeah.
other things that you didn't do, you failed.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you just try to do one thing and be 100% right or 100% wrong? And Mike Maddox, pitching coach for Texas right now, he was my next pitching coach in the big leagues, and he was big on that. 100% conviction on every single you throw, every single pitch you throw.
Committing to
it. Because if you're not certain about something, about throwing a pitch or whatever it is,
outside corner.
yeah,
and
well,
guiding.
and that and pitch selection, like I want to throw a curveball right here, but my catcher is he says fastball away, and I'm like, all right, I'll throw a fastball away. Am I convicted? Absolutely not. I'm not convicted because I was convicted on throwing the curveball, in my mind
So
before.
Was your gut feeling?
Yeah, it was my gut feeling like, I have him set up for this curveball, but my catcher, he's, I went through Pudge. I've been through a lot of catchers, right? And some of the guys, they just, call fast, and
they stick it down.
They just keep on, get it there, I'm like, all right, and then all of a sudden, I either give up a hit or I pitch tentatively and I get behind the count, or or I lose a guy 0-2, or I try to be too careful because I'm not convicted. And then and then I started throwing that cutter, early in the minor leagues, and all of a sudden I was able to throw that cutter, and that was my pitch to go to. So any doubt, whenever I shook, it was cutter.
You could throw it for a strike.
I backdoored it, I front doored it, I cut it into righties, I even raised it, with a little bit of movement rather than just a straight fastball up there. I what they call pitched.
Yeah.
Today we just see throw. We throw hard. You throw hard. You
Yeah,
go.
gas.
You go throw hard. You have another pitch, but it's usually not for a strike.
When they're throwing 95, though, it comes on you so fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you're just like people don't realize it. Like,
Yeah,
there's a difference between 90 and 95, and that's
100%.
It's a big one.
It is.
Sometimes I would accidentally, it's like especially in A ball when they're throwing 97, it's scary.
Because they don't know where it's going.
I thought it was easier in spring training if I got pulled up to AAA for the day.
Because they do strikes.
I was like, man, I felt so comfortable in there.
Right.
And then you go down and they're like throwing at your head.
And sometimes on purpose, right?
Yeah. So
I think that was one of the things that helped me stick. So once I went over to the Milwaukee, I was down in AAA for a little bit. I ended up throwing really well. I think is it Cecil Cooper? He was my manager at the time. And when I got pulled up, I never went back down after that. Besides when I ended up having arm surgery. I think that was in 10? I think.
Yeah. What
2010.
did you get?
I had
Tommy?
No, I had a muscle. I had the muscle. The tendon was fine, but I had a muscle tear.
All connected in here.
Yeah, it was connected. It was connected to the tendon, right? So they ended up fixing that. But I've always had numbness in my fingers and always tingling every single pitch I've ever thrown. So I knew nothing different. And so they transposed my nerve. So my funny bone, my funny bone's here instead of up here, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like when I'm on a bar, my hand starts stinging. You know what I mean? It was something like that. But after when I came back, I started throwing 90, 92 again, and I didn't know how to pitch like that at all. But my velocity was back. I obviously worked really hard to get back to that point of my best shape of my life and all that. And then I ended up getting signed with the Cubs. And then got 38 days to make it 10 years in one day. And then they sent me down because my numbers were horrible with the Cubs. That was a whole nother story.
Yeah, no, we could talk forever.
Right. That's when I played with Dempster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I actually texted him just because we had like Simon Pond, like there's guys that he grew up with that I played against in the minor leagues and stuff.
Sure.
But so going back to the sports psychology, it's funny because in college, I was the guy that had a lot of physical talent, and I just didn't handle failure. That's why I failed, because I was a pretty high draft pick and stuff, and like kind of coming out of college, I was well known and stuff. And once I started to fail, I thought everybody's looking at me, and I was failing, and it was just like I couldn't recover. Right, so I'm just obsessed with sports psychology because the Blue Jays gave me every opportunity. I'm not the guy sitting here telling you that like, oh, they didn't like me because of this politics. No, the politics were on my side.
Right.
And they wanted to move me up. And I just couldn't let my natural talent come out. So they sent me to sports psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and I started doing these meditation visualizations every
Yeah,
day. And
that's
I came back to spring training. It was like I was freakish.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally, like, I didn't even know what I was like. It actually kind of scared me because I'm like, I'm doing all this stuff that is coming naturally.
Yeah.
And then I stopped because I was 22.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Sure. That it was helping so much.
Yeah, that like, okay, I got it. I figured it out.
Right.
And then I stopped, and then it was like 3 months later, I was back to where I was, and that's kind of, it was the beginning
Sure.
of the end.
Yeah, and that's putting pressure on yourself, right? And that's another thing I remember Harvey talking about. And having a pitching coach like Lee Tunnell and having a pitching coach like Mike Maddox, they were also shrinks. You know what I mean? They were also like, hey, be Doug Davis. You're not Mike Mussina. You're not these guys. Be Doug Davis. Be yourself. Go out there and do what you want to do. Don't please anybody else. You pretty much F everybody else. Screw them. Don't even don't try to please them.
Everybody compares, like, that's just like, it's going to crush you if you compare.
Right.
And you probably even start tweaking things to go, oh, I'm going to, how does he do this sinker? Yep. Like, okay, let me try that. Next thing you know, you're lost.
Right.
Like a golf swing.
Exactly. That's exactly
golf,
right. Yes, I love
so golf. It's like, if you start tinkering with your golf swing, then you're like, you don't remember what your old golf swing is, and you don't have a new golf swing.
Yep, that's exactly right. What worked before, I don't remember.
Hitting's the same way.
Oh, yeah. And so
look
pitching's
at,
the same way,
John
too.
Olerud, like, he puts his foot down super early, or Edgar does it, and then you start doing that, and then it's just all out.
And then, are you John Olerud? Are you Dave John? I mean, are you these guys? Right. You're not. And that's one other thing. You just kind of have to stop giving crap. You just have to stop caring so much about failing, about what happens, because, like I said, the worst thing that could possibly happen is not going to happen out there on the mound. Mm-hmm. My kids are not going to pass away because I can't throw a strike today, or if I never play ball again, or whatever it is. So putting it in perspective, like, hey, it's still just a game, regardless what level you're on. Mm-hmm. Just because there's more people watching, or because you're in the big leagues now and you're facing, Barry Bonds and stuff like that.
Did you feel like you would get in when you first started, when you're in the big leagues, did you kind of go, okay, like, I need to throw strikes, and like maybe just aim it a little bit or something?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a people pleaser, right? I always like to try to figure out who I have to please to be able to get another opportunity, or kiss ass, as you call it, right? Yeah, it's knowing the people that you have to kiss ass to stay in the game, right? And and that was when I was coming up, right? But then after I, being out of options and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden now my career went from, hey, I'm up in the big leagues, and then kind of, and then all of a sudden designated for assignment, and then designated again, and then now I'm in the minor leagues making minimum, and then after that I was just like, I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter, But I'm not gonna quit, because I'm not a quitter, right? Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things. If you're a quitter and you think that you can't do it anymore, you're not gonna be able to do it.
No, man, it was a lesson learned that I take. That part of my life is like literally, like, I go, that was handled totally wrong, but I didn't know how. I didn't have the tools at that time.
Sure.
Because everybody's different, right? Everybody's emotional intelligence is developed at different stages.
100%.
And like Chris Magruder's a guy that had like super high emotional intelligence in baseball.
Right. And cards. He loved cards. That guy loved poker.
but it's just I don't have any bad feelings about it. But I look back and go, well, I quit doing the things that got me there.
Right. Yep.
And I didn't relax.
Yeah, you weren't having fun anymore.
No, man.
Right.
It
became stressful. It became a job that it was pass or fail, and once you fail, and everybody knows that's a game of failure. Yeah. If you can deal with failure, I think
massive failure.
Come back. Yeah.
And I think that part, like, people just like think about it. Like, this is super, like, been the same forever, but as a hitter hitting 300, you're failing like most of the time.
Yeah.
And so you have to change your perspective on it. And
right.
So I put out some content recently, and I said, when somebody helped, my sports psychologist said, don't worry about your batting average. Let's do this. Let's do an average of good at bats. Mm-hmm. And so my whole point was, okay, I don't care if I strike out. I'm looking outside over the plate fastball, I'm going to wait till I get it.
Yeah.
And if the pitcher is,
Thumb you to death.
thumb me, like good work.
Right.
But if I chase that,
You got to learn to tip your hat.
Yeah, because exactly, and I go cool because he's got to beat me. And he's got to throw those strikes.
Right.
And I know as a catcher, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm waiting for this, and if he throws 2 sliders to get me an 0-2, like good for him.
Right.
When I did that, my average went way up. I started hitting bombs.
Right, because you're not missing what you're looking for, right? If you're trying to hit something you're not looking for, it gotta catch you as a surprise, right? Like, and then all of a sudden it's not a convicted swing, right? You're like, because now it's a different when you got a 2-strike approach. I understand, you're trying to put the ball play or whatever it is, and that, that's what I actually went through with my son, this past year. He broke his arm like about 2 months, like a month and a half ago, but yeah, just going through. He's 11. He plays for the junior Cougs at Mountain View, and everything. He's a pitcher, loves pitching, that kind of stuff. But
Righty or lefty?
He's a righty, but he's one of the harder throwers on the team, and he throws strikes. And his mechanics, I wish I had his mechanics even when I was playing because they're just solid. I can't take any credit for that. He just watches a lot of YouTube and watches the bat bros and watches pitchers and stuff like that, and then he asks questions. And asking questions is the hardest part to do instead of thinking that they got it and going out there and they don't have it and they fail and then and I kind of just have to tell them that hey, just because you went 0 for 4 with 3 punchies and and a rollover or whatever doesn't mean you're not going to go 4 for 4 tomorrow and hit 500. So don't.
Like every pitch is every at bat is a new chance to have a good at bat.
Right. Yeah. And really, you just like better than anybody. If you get 3 hits out of 10 at bats, you're an all-star. Yeah. You're above average player. So and that's kind of that's the failure part with kids, that it's hard to get through to them because they'll only remember when the bases were loaded, 2 outs, and they struck out. They won't remember when you put a bunt down and it caused havoc on the bases and they threw it in the right field and all of a sudden you're on third base and you got a run scored. They don't remember that kind of stuff. And that was the time, that was the either tying or the go-ahead run. They won't remember that one, and you got and that's they'll only remember the failure of the biggest opportunity, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think it's just I look back on that stuff too, and it's like. People ask me, what would you do? My son needs help, blah, blah, blah. And I don't coach or anything, but I'm like, what I would, and people think I'm giving them bad advice because they think having a psychologist said there's something wrong. I go, get my kid in sports psychology, and I'd hit off a tee and groove my swing every single day.
Yeah.
Take 50 hacks on the tee and then take BP.
For sure.
Just like hitting golf balls at the range.
Yeah.
And burning in crappy habits.
Exactly.
So it's like visualize, do the sports psychology visualization, hit off the tee, work on the mechanics. McGruder was amazing at that. He would literally just go through these drills every day.
But he wasn't doing 50. He was doing 150
hacks, but whatever's consistent, right? Like do it every day. Don't stop because I think
his work ethic, right? And that's kind of what it comes down to. Work ethic and putting the time in and that kind of thing, and just confidence. Always. And that's why, I think when you look at baseball players, they're all, they have an arrogancy behind them, right? They're all kind of arrogant, and you have to be to play the game. You have to think you're the best. You have to think you can get whoever. It doesn't matter who's up. You have to think you can get them out. I don't care. And I worked with high school pitchers all the time, and they pitch scared. And they wonder. They don't understand that terminology. Like, what do you mean pitch scared? I'm not scared of these guys. And I was like, well, are you pitching to contact, or are you trying to strike them out? Are you trying to get swings and misses, or are you trying to get contact? And they're like, well, I'm trying to strike them out and make the best pitch I can. I'm like, you know how hard it is to hit, right? Because everybody at this point, it's round by round ball. You know what I mean? This thing is hard. It's hard to square up that.
So you're teaching them to go, hey, put these pitches where they can roll over and get a ground ball.
Well, I'm saying pitch to contact. Let them hit the ball. I don't care if you lay it over there. If it's 3-1 and they beat you at 3-1 and you're laying one over there, you tip your hat to them. And okay, they still had to hit it. It may not have been my best pitch, right over the middle, thigh high, in their sweet spot, and they hit it real hard in the gap, or even home runs at the same time. At least you made them earn it, and if you're trying to strike them out when it's 0-0, when you're trying to strike them out when it's 0-1, you can't, right? You got to get 2 strikes first, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I always tell my kids is that, and this is straight from Mike Maddox, is, he goes, would you rather throw 81 pitches in 9 innings and strike everybody out, right? Or would you rather go and throw 27 pitches and get everybody out in 1 pitch? And I was like, I already knew it was a trick question. I know it's going to be 27 because you always want to throw less amount of pitches, right? But I kind of thought about it. And I was like, okay, if I strike everybody out, that's pretty awesome. I don't think anybody's ever done that, but nobody's ever thrown 27 pitches and got 27 outs. Yeah. And I said 27 pitches, of course, because it saves your arm. And he goes, yeah, and you can do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can do it again tomorrow. If you throw 81 pitches, you can't do it tomorrow. You got to take 3 days off before you can do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting. So what would your approach come in? You could throw that cutter off the right now.
Yeah, 3-0, I'll throw the cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just gives you a pitch that you can throw at any time, and it's going to screw them up. Just a couple miles an hour difference, right?
Yeah, and it looks the same to a righty.
Yeah.
It's just another deception.
I don't want a cutter on a left from you, man.
Right.
It's just you're here, and it's just
yeah, especially when you're behind the count, right? Because you see a fastball and it's right down the middle, and then all of a sudden it cuts into your hands, and now it's either a broken bat or a ground ball to third, or sometimes obviously they muscle it over to third base a lot, or shortstops. It still breaks their bat. And see, that's another thing. You can always look at the bad things about a start and a bat or whatever, but this guy threw a nasty curveball and I fouled it off. But I still struck out. But can you take that good?
Yeah.
Can you take that good thing out of that? Like, oh dang, he threw that nasty curveball and I was able to fight that off at 0-2. You know what I mean? You didn't take that out of that bat. No, you took the results.
Yeah.
Instead of the battle.
Yeah. So let's go back to that thing. I would strike out and count it as a good at bat because he made a really good pitch.
Exactly.
And I was like 3-2.
Yeah, you made him throw 6 or more pitches, right?
Yeah.
That's what a quality at bat would be. At the time when we were both coming up, a quality at bat would be 6 or more pitches is a quality at bat, and that used to be one of our one of the actual stats.
Okay, interesting.
Like, is this guy seeing a lot of pitches? If he is, that takes a taxi on the starting pitcher, and and if you can get 6 pitches, and you get 3 outs, the guy's still throwing 18 pitches. You know what I mean?
Yep.
At that point, and you can get him out of the game a little quicker and get into that bullpen.
Yeah, I think that was like really good advice to think of it as a take something from it, because you're just failing all the time. It's just like
you're taking the result every time.
You're gonna and that's what I did, and it just beat me up, and then I was just like, well, now I suck. And then you went from coming out of college going, I'm the best,
right?
I'm the best, to I'm the worst. Spiral.
And quickly too.
Quickly spiral.
Yeah, it does.
So the transition.
But at that time, when I say quickly, at that time you're thinking it's taking forever. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude,
every game, the 3 hours a game is super long. Then you look at it, it's like that's only 3 weeks, and I've lost 4 games. Or I'm 1 for my last 20 at bats. Like what?
Yeah, you get in one of those 1 for 26. You start to question like what is going on. But then you look at Manny Ramirez. I would say. Manny Ramirez was 0 for like 25 in the playoffs or something one time. Right? One of the best hitters ever. So you just have to keep grinding through it.
Like 100%.
But baseball can bring you incredibly low if you don't know how to handle it.
Oh yeah.
Brutal.
It makes you hate the game, right?
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there. That if you played any kind of minor league level, you're playing 100 plus games or even 62 games. It's a long season when you're struggling. Whether it's a team struggle or your personal struggles.
Yeah, it's really long.
Yeah.
Transition out. So one of the biggest things, like a lot of my friends from college and that went to pro ball and stuff, like a lot of them still struggle with that identity thing. And I think for me, and this is, I want to get your perspective on this, because transitioning, like Neil Allen was our pitching coach, and he played in the Yankees. He was a closer. I think he was like the first guy to make $1 million or something in New York. And he was super funny, but we'd break before the year, and he would always joke around and be like, "You're gonna go home and start cussing at your mom," because we live with a bunch of dudes, and we're locker room talk 24/7.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't think I learned how to assimilate into whatever normal society is when you're hanging out around, my whole life, knowing
Sure.
what to do, where to go, doing what you're told, and then to come out and have no guardrails.
Yeah, fortunate. I met my wife like 2 years before I retired, my current wife, and she kind of kept me grounded when it came to that kind of thing. I also had kids.
Yep.
I started over and had 3 more kids with her, and because I wasn't there for the first 2 kids, playing ball all the time, I was going through the divorce and all that kind of stuff. That was really hard. Although it was my best career year, career 2 or 3 years, that made pretty much, that set me up. I still wasn't there for those kids, and that ate me up quite a bit. So the transition of not playing anymore kind of transitioned to, okay, well now it's all about them.
So you get a chance to redo this thing?
I got a chance. Well, for my personal, yes, but I'm more of like, I'm more of like the dad, their dad wasn't in their life for 13 years, and then now I get a chance to be there every single day, walk them to the bus, take them home from school, go to all their school activities and stuff like that. I think that's really eaten up a lot of my time. I bought 20 acres now, and I'm keeping it all maintained myself, and just keeping yourself busy doing like the good things.
You had what I have now, but I didn't have. Like literally, I had some money left.
Yeah.
And I just traveled, partied, but I didn't know where to go. I'm like, almost have my degree. I just had to finish a couple classes, so I had a good education. I was just like, what the hell am I gonna do?
Yeah, you got a lot of time on your hands.
Drinking, man.
Yeah.
And it's just partying. I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
And even into my 30s, and I didn't get married till I was 10 years ago, and then I had a 6-year-old kid, and that's really when, it wasn't bad forever, but
right, sure,
you got to have a family to keep you
grounded.
Yeah, otherwise,
100%.
Guys like me and you were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A few million in my pocket, and I get to go do whatever the hell I want anytime I want.
It's not good.
No, it wouldn't have been good, And like I said, having a wife that I loved and I wanted to be around, and kids that that are dependent on me, that I am around for, and I think that's kind of what kept me out of that spiral of like, what the hell do I do now? I think another route what I would gone, and I still think about this, is, hey, I want to go coach, and start in the minor leagues and, work my way up, and, I'm still looking for, I still want that ring.
Oh yeah, you still want to get involved?
I do, but my kids are still too young.
Yeah.
My kids, I got a 7-year-old, so I still got a few years left with that. And I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old girl. So, so they're still pretty young. But again, coaching would take me away from them, and I just can't do that again.
Yeah.
Not only to them, but my wife either. Being a single parent can't be easy.
Yeah, in the minor leagues, you got to work your way up. So it's like the minor leagues are brutal for coaches too, man.
No, they're terrible.
Away from their family the whole time, they don't make any money.
Right. But it's not an 8-month long job. It's a full year, because once you coach, the minor leagues for the 6 months, you also got 2 months. When you got winter ball and you got spring training. Yeah, and then they want you to go to Puerto Rico, and they want you to go coach in Mexico, and they want you, and if you say no, just like when you're playing, you say no. Yeah, they're like, okay, well, we're not going to ask you ever again. We're going to get somebody else that wants to actually be there and coach. And Gabe Kapler had called me and asked me to interview for Lake Elsinore A-ball team.
California?
Yeah.
Where's he at? He's with the Angels?
When this was going on, I believe he was with the Dodgers. Okay. It was low A for high A for the Dodgers. But my kid, I just had, my youngest, it was 7 years ago. I just had him, and I was like, it's just a bad time right now, but I would love to do it, And I love coaching. I coached my 11. I coached a little bit with the Mountain View High School. I coached the Elks here one year. I coached Boss Baseball. I've coached the Bucks, which is like an 18 or like an 18U wood bat league that plays mostly home games for the most part. And those things didn't really take me away from my family a lot, but it's still a lot, right? It is. The Elks was a lot. It took my whole summer. So now instead of going camping with my family, I'm going to Portland to watch, people play baseball again.
Yeah.
You know, and I love working with that age. I liked working with the 18, 23, some in that age, because it's, you know, at least they're mature enough and they know they love the game and to keep on playing. And then when you go play, you know, and then you go coach 11-year-olds and 7-year-olds, you're just like,
Yeah. You're like,
you're just like,
so what do you do?
you don't listen. Well, yeah, what you do, you just gotta understand is like these kids don't even care about the game. You know, they're just here because pretty much my mom and dad told me I got to do something. You know, when they signed me up, and I didn't even know I was playing until you know 2 days before the season started. So anyway, it's, you know, you just gotta take it, have patience, let them fail, you know, and try to work with them, you know, and that's just.
Is that what you're doing with your spare time then right now? You're done.
I do a lot of coaching.
Like you're retired.
Yeah, I coach a lot. Yeah, okay. I do. I do. 1 year I did Little League. Last year I did Little League. I did travel ball and another, you know, two Bend South Little Leagues, and then travel ball, and then varsity pitching coach for Mountain View.
Yeah.
Granted, the Mountain View, I more helped them January through March to help them get ready and, you know, lengthen out making sure we're getting them ready to throw 4 to 6 innings, you know, and getting them up to the 65, 70 pitch count and stuff like that. So, and working on grips and working on different pitches, and, you know, just stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Well, that's good.
Fun.
What are you? So you're playing some golf? Where are you a member?
BGCC.
Oh, nice. That's a fun course.
I love the course.
Super fun.
Yeah, especially if you're a big misser, like they got trees that will hit and just kind of fall down. Yeah, that's me too.
What's your handicap?
I'm a 7.8.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's right where I want to be. I got down to a 4 when I played a lot. You know, when my kids were really young. You know, it was like I got to get out of here. You know, and I go play golf a lot. I got down to like a 3.8, a 4.2.
Yeah.
But then I was getting everybody strokes, and I'm like, this sucks.
Well, then you just lose.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm a member at Tethero.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I don't get a chance to. I got 2 little kids, and I try to bet like my activities. I gotta be.
Sure.
Yeah, so I played 9 yesterday and just played 9, but I don't want to put too much work into it because that's when I get addicted.
Yeah.
And I want to be better, but I'm just having fun.
Then you get hard on yourself.
Well, yeah,
when you fail.
like, I gotta get.
And you try to change your swing.
Yeah,
and you don't know what works.
Yeah. So now, it's like tinker with your swing, and you can spend a whole year with the shanks when you do that.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. I've been there.
I actually, what really was the nail in the coffin for me was I got the yips on the catcher.
Couldn't throw
I
back.
could throw 90 to second. That was my thing. And it just started to happen. I think I missed it once, and it started to rewire. And then it got to the point when I picked up a baseball, it almost felt weird.
Yeah, felt foreign, right?
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it was the worst mental. I just felt awful.
Yeah.
But look at big leaguers, Ankiel, Knobloch, Wohlers. There's a huge list of people that were all-stars. It's a thing, and there's no reversing it.
Nope. I
don't care what you do.
Yeah. You just got to work through it, right? You know.
I still have dreams, man, that I go to they put me in the big leagues, and I'm throwing it right back to the pitcher. I felt good, but it's in my head, and the dream is recurring. It's a trip, man.
Yeah, that is. Yep.
Well, cool, man. I mean, that's. I think we covered a lot. Unless you wanted to talk about anything else.
I mean, if you got any more questions or anything.
I mean, dude, we could talk forever. But we should probably play golf or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, because we know a lot of the same people.
I'm sure we do.
It's really, really cool.
I don't know who else played at Washington, but what would you come up with?
Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays. Okay.
Yeah. So I was 4th round.
You know Henske?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, Eric.
Okay.
So he played at Arkansas. We played against
he's
him.
managing. Is he still managing, or is he still coaching right now?
I don't know. I don't keep in touch with him, but Kevin Cash was my roommate.
Kevin Cash?
Yeah,
catcher,
he was my
right?
roommate back in. So I was a catcher. Then he came from third base, and then we had Joe Lawrence. They moved from shortstop to catcher. So we got packed all of a sudden. And so I moved to left field part-time, and that's when I really started raking. Left field, because I could run a little bit, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of fun out here. It was boring, but I didn't have the pressure.
You didn't have the pressure.
When you're taking your shin guards off, people don't realize you're rushing and taking your shin guards off, then you put your helmet on, and you go
it's a lot of work. Yeah.
And then you're on the bases, and it's like
And you're like, what do I call here? No, what the hell does he want? I mean, do I need 2 fingers? 2 hands? You know, you don't have to worry about any of that in left field. Left field, I mean, and
Kicking dirt.
Yeah, well, yeah, that you just don't have the stress, right? I mean, yeah, I wish I could. Yeah, if I had a chance to do some things over, I wish I would have kept hitting. You know, because when I lost hitting, I was 1 for 42.
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually, I was 0 for 42, and then I finally got a hit. I was a righty.
Oh, gosh.
And I was really bad at bunting, you know. And then next year, I was like, this is what I'm focusing on this year.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so now, because you can't stay in the game in the National League if you can't hit. You know what I mean? They'll take you out, right?
Seriously, like you're putting so much time and effort into your pitching. It's like now you got to at least put the ball. You just have to put it in play.
Right. Yeah. And then weekly, and I didn't strike out a ton, but you know, I just for some reason it was just like.
How did you feel up there? Were you scared?
Yeah, I wasn't scared.
I know, but if you're only hitting once in a while, they're just blowing.
Yeah, we're taking we take BP only at home, so we still taking BP 80 days a year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when you're hitting BP, you know this. If you're hitting BP and you're hitting 92, 93, you're hitting off Randy Johnson, or hitting off somebody, you know, that can throw a lot harder, you know, whatever, and with movement and with tail and with something that different speeds. It's a totally different story. You know, the timing is all off.
I didn't even think about asking you.
I was literally I was playing against the Rockies, and Ubaldo Jimenez was pitching.
Oh,
he was throwing 98, right? Yeah. He's throwing 98, and long, lanky guy pretty much reached to the plate for it, you know, and let it go. But they and I didn't know they said this, but the commentator said this guy is literally the worst hitter that's ever played the game of baseball. He's 0 for 42 this year. He's hitting 0.49, which was my number, that I wore on my back. He's hitting 0.49 for his career. Yeah. And then I hit a double.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You're like,
only because the outfielder was probably sleeping, or he was playing like right behind second base.
They're just like doing this. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It surprised them, right? Yeah. And it probably should have been a triple because they were playing so shallow on me.
You get a lot of fastballs?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, I did.
They're going to come after you.
Yeah, they're going to come after me.
Play to contact.
Right. So
they don't want to be throwing.
They don't want to be dicking around.
6, 7, 10 pitches on a pitcher, right? They want to just go here, just hit it.
Right. Yeah, and that's funny. One thing I'm in the Hall of Fame for, right? I came back from cancer at 35 days and started. That was one of them. Wow. So my glove and my hat and that kind of stuff. But the other one is Randy Johnson's home run ball. That was me.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah. I gave up the home run, right?
That's awesome.
And then it's kind of funny because he only gave up one home run to a pitcher, and that was Giovanni Gallardo. And then Gallardo's first home run was off of me. So the triangle, right, between us, and then Giovanni took my number in Milwaukee, right?
Oh,
took my number when I came down to Arizona. But there's a triangle here, and you got Randy, you got Gallardo. Then I'm down here in the bottom, giving up both. I was like, I didn't get a hit off either one of these guys, right? Nothing. So yeah.
How did that feel?
It was kind of embarrassing. We lost 2-1 too, so it ended up being the actual game winner. Well, obviously one of the ones. It was 0-0 at the time.
Look at each other and smile, or is it more competitive?
No, I was a little more competitive. I was like, shit. It was a 2-0 cutter, right? And just having to hit his bat, and I'm telling you, the shortstop kind of left his foot, thinking he was gonna have a chance to catch this thing, and it was sailed right over the fence in Milwaukee. So I was like, fuck. He crushed it. And then I played with him in 07. He came over 09, his last year. He came over and pitched with us. And of course, we're locker mate. We're right next to each other. And of course, the first thing he does when he gets in there, he looks over my head. I know somebody in here gave up a home run to me. I'm not sure who it is, like that. Looking over my head, and I was like, boo, gave him a cup check. And,
I missed that. That's what I missed.
The camaraderie, 100%.
Yeah, that was really
the unity.
Hard for me, man.
That was tough for me too.
Because you just go into isolation in a way, and you're just used to having just constant play.
Constant banter. you know, and you don't have it anymore. Nowhere. Like I think at that time when you get that unity and you get that banter and stuff, it makes you feel wanted. It makes you feel like you're in the circle. Yeah, you feel like you're brothers, you know, and that you really want to be there for each other. And then when you don't have that anymore, and you don't have the competitiveness anymore, and that was one of the hard things out of baseball. Like, what am I going to compete at now? And golf. So I started playing golf a lot, and you know, started gambling in golf a little bit. You know, nothing big money or anything like that, but you know, even if it was $20, you know, and that's what we play. That's what we play for now. It's $20, 20 for the front, 20 for the back, 20 overall. But it's the principle of going out there and competing, and that's some things I miss. Having a good foursome with playing golf is ideal, right? Yeah, exactly. The banter comes back, you know.
I still have that trash talking in me. Just with average people, I'll say, they probably don't know I'm joking or something. It's just automatic sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do that with my kid.
Yeah,
and and then all of a sudden my kid gets kind of hurt. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you're only 11 still.
my wife, she said to me, I said, it's just locker room talk or something. And she's like, locker room? You haven't been in a locker room in over 20 years.
That's
and I'm
funny.
like, she doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's
it
just
doesn't.
ingrained in you to talk trash.
Yeah. And if you didn't, you just took it all. You know, and then you're miserable, right?
Yeah.
You had to give it back. If you didn't give it back, you were going to get picked on more. You know what I mean? So that's a good time. Yeah. That was, you're right. That was one of the things I should have brought up when it was, you know, like right out of the game, you know, where am I going to compete? Where, you know, I have a huge competitive, you know, bone in my body that I got to figure out something.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't going to be coaching, that's why I coached for a little bit with the Elks and stuff like that, because I brought back some of that competitiveness, but I didn't feel the adrenaline.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I had before, the adrenaline junkie that I became when I was playing the game, you know, whether it was ESPN game or whatever, you know, or whether I was going against the Red Sox or whether I was going to Yankees.
Up, man.
Yeah, you do. And then once you get jacked up, that's another mental part of the game, right? You got to stay at 80%. Less is more. That's another thing Harvey told me. Less is more, you know, 80%. Why? Well, because you can't contain, you can't contain, or you can't attain, I should say, you can't attain 100%, right? Because once you throw 8 to 10 pitches, you don't have 100% anymore, right? You know, you have to be a reliever for that. So I got to stay at 80%. I can attain 80% through 7 innings, 100 pitches.
Yeah.
I can only attain 100%, 20 pitches, 25 pitches tops, you know, and then all of a sudden I don't have 100%, but I'm still trying to throw 100%, and then all of a sudden,
it's like that for everything, man. Like everything, like
golf. Yeah.
For me, business.
Yeah.
I'm like, because if I go 100%, then I back off.
Right.
But if I go, I'm just going to be light, consistent every day over long periods of time. So
consistency, right?
My biggest bombs were I was exhausted and I was just like, and you're just hitting misses.
Yeah. Because you didn't care.
That didn't care, and you're fast.
Yep. Yeah, and you just use your hands to whip through. Yeah, I understand that too. Yeah, cool, same thing.
Good. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
that was
my
awesome.
pleasure. Yeah, it was good.
Golf.
Yep, nice meeting you.
Right on.
Yep.
Yeah.